Alright, Arknights Endfield is the most divisive gacha game so far. When I saw this video on my feed, I was like, okay, this is going to be the perfect video to react to. So let's go ahead and check this out. Let's see what this person has to say, because Arknights Endfield, a lot of people are looking forward to this game. This game is dropping on the 22nd, so a couple weeks from now. And seeing how we got, games like Wuwa, Genshin Impact, constantly going at each other for like the past 2 years. Let's see if Arknights Endfield is going to be worse when it comes to the community. Let's see.
What do you look for when you install a new gacha game? Are you looking for characters, gameplay, or story? Ever since the release of Genshin Impact, most gacha game releases began to provide a great experience with all of these aspects. The quality and standard were raised with this game, and now when you create an inferior product, it fails. In most cases, when a gacha game releases, it is very
Power of Poopacy.
cut and clear who likes it and who doesn't. Wuthering Waves was formed by only a few Kuro communities coming from games like Punishing Grey Raven, while a massive portion of its player base most definitely came from disgruntled Genshin Impact players that just wanted a better product. While you might look at these two very distinct communities that really hate each other and think that Wuthering Waves is a divisive game, there is one that's even going to be more divisive. Lines are going to be drawn all over the place, resulting in Arknights Endfield becoming the most divisive gacha game to ever release so far. Just before we jump into the content, I've got
Now, the most divisive gacha game. Now, I will say, Arknights Endfield, if this game ends up being better than Genshin Impact and Wuwa, then yes, I feel like it's gonna make like this whole tribalism shit even it's gonna make the whole tribalism shit 10 times worse.
a portion of the player base to complain, a line will be drawn. Then I want to talk about the implications of this divisiveness when it comes to community and game development. Finally, I also want to give you my thoughts about the game so far, as the beta has almost concluded and it's about time I do a review. So Arknights Endfield is obviously a sequel to Arknights, and it's a sequel in every way. It's the same universe, the same timeline, even some of the exact same characters. The only difference is we're hundreds of years into the future, and it's an action RPG instead of a real-time strategy tower.
I've never played Arknights. I never played OG Arknights before, so I don't know what the hell is going on when it comes to lore and all of that. And the reason why I never played Arknights is because the gameplay is just not my cup of tea. The whole like tower defense thing where you're just placing characters down on tiles and like it's just not my style at all. So just not interested in Arknights whatsoever. But Arknights Endfield, I'm interested.
Defense game. One of the biggest reasons it's going to be divisive is that it takes after Arknights a lot. While a lot of people may, at first glance, see that this is an action RPG gacha game and think they're obviously capitalizing upon Genshin's success, but they couldn't be more wrong. While games like Wuthering Waves are incredibly similar to Genshin Impact to the point where it's probably impossible to claim that Kuro games didn't take insanely heavy inspiration, Enfield's case is completely different. Also, by the way, I'm not attacking Kuro games for this. Wuthering Waves is a completely superior product to Genshin Impact in every way. They did the open world action RPG formula 1,000 times better. Anyways, how is Endfield more similar?
Y'all heard him. He said it. Wuwa is better than Genshin. You already know niggas in the comments gonna be like, "How dare you say that? How dare you say my game isn't better than Wuwa?" Like, bro, niggas be taking this shit personally, bro. It's so fucking sad, bro.
Success, it is doing so many things better than Genshin Impact, such as generosity, combat quality, and the gacha system. Meanwhile, things like Enfield's gacha system are only very debatably better than games like Genshin and Wuwa. While I personally think it's a better system for many reasons that I have listed in this video right here, everything is still very debatable either way.
I feel like the whole like guaranteed not carrying over, I feel like that's kind of bullshit.
System is not perfect. It lacks the 50-50 guarantee that many players are used to. The 126-star guarantee also doesn't carry over, which again, a lot of players don't really like. This is already one line drawn that separates Wuwa and Genshin players from Endfield. The system is a lot more like Arknights' system, where the only guarantee to get the on-banner unit that you want is going above 150 pulls. If you're in dedicated Arknights spaces, you'll find a lot of players really don't mind this at all. A lot of Arknights players will tell you that if you just spend mindfully instead of pulling willy-nilly, you'll get what you want, and I'm inclined to agree, and I do think that the Endfield situation will be the same. This game also doesn't give out rewards like Genshin and Wuwa. For example, achievements are completely optional and don't give Oro Barrel, just like in Arknights. Umbral Monument, one of Enfield's endgame modes we already have in the beta, doesn't give much either. This is just like Arknights, where the endgame does not really give gacha currency, and also fun fact, like most endgame content in the Battle Cats. A lot of Genshin, Wuwa, HSR, and ZZZ players will see this and think it's predatory because you end up with less rewards, but this is obviously a good thing because when you're not incentivized to pull the newest units because you need the 800 or so Stellar Jade lock behind the MOC, the devs are no longer incentivized to do things like power creep and HP inflation, and there's also way less FOMO surrounding the endgame content. That's sort of another line drawn because
Well, that's way too early. You know what I'm saying? It's way too early for us to jump to that conclusion and say, well, the devs, the reason why there's no rewards in the in-game mode is because, they don't want to do some predatory shit where you have to pull for the latest unit in order for you to clear that content. We don't know if that's going to happen or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, the game isn't even out yet. It's a live service game. A lot of people were saying the same thing about, Genshin. Actually, no. A lot of people were saying the same thing about HSR, right? You guys remember HSR? Oh, you don't have to pull for this character in order for you to clear in-game content. Even though you have like pools, you have pools in MOC. And look at where HSR is look at where HSR is right now. Game is completely dog shit. If you don't pull for the latest character, good luck. When it comes to Wuwa is not at that point yet, right? It's not at that point, but Wuwa, the fact that characters can't like when you take a look at premium teams in Wuwa and free to play teams, it's an insane gap in Wuwa. So I will say it's way too early for us to jump to that conclusion and just assume that, Arknights Endfield is going to be different than Genshin and Wuwa because there's no rewards in the end game, which means that the devs are no longer incentivized to, make in game predatory and implement stupid shit that forces you to pull for the latest character. We don't know that yet. At the end of the day, this is a gacha game, so I'm not gonna sit here and play dumb and just assume that the Arknights Infield devs are just 100% generous. We've been baited multiple times already, and I'm not gonna get baited again. Just keep your guard up. That's all there is to it.
Of unfamiliarity, but this could also serve as a line erased for some players, where they'll want to try out something new instead of the exact same formula they've tried out before. So this will depend on the open-mindedness of each player. Do you remember when Honkai Star?
Hey, I might be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? I hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope the devs, they actually make meaningful in-game content where it's like, oh, you actually rely on skill versus you just pulling for the latest character to clear in-game, right? Hopefully that's the case, but I'm not gonna keep my hopes up. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and cope when when we look at Arknights Infield in-game content. Eventually, it will be same typical gacha slop in-game mode where pull for latest character in order for you to clear. Wouldn't be surprised.
Well, first came out. Although Genshin could never stuff, which in hindsight was really stupid because it's the same company. Well, the communities did eventually realize this, and now you'll barely find any HSR or Genshin players hating on each other. Instead, they'll hate on Wuthering Waves, probably. For a while, Honkai Star Rail itself was very divisive in the way that it created a further split. Remember how Wuthering Waves and Genshin's community split and began hating each other? Well, when you throw Honkai Star Rail discussions into the mix, you create a much more hostile and tribalistic environment. However, this was shut down when HSR and Genshin players obviously realized that in the end, they are one and the same. As a result, instead of a three-way tribal war, it became a Kuro versus Hoyo thing. But now, Endfield will also be thrown into the mix, but not just that, because Arknights over the past year or so has already been getting a lot of traction on the internet, with the Arknights Glaze movement specifically, and with Endfield on top of that, Hypergriff as a whole is going to enter this discussion, and that itself is a huge reason as to why I'm saying this game is going to be so divisive. Apart from being so different, it is also going to become a third competitor for the biggest open-world gacha game in the space, and Hypergriff is going to become a competitor for the biggest gacha company in the space, and will put them in the spotlight, or the low light, if you will. This will draw further lines between communities, leading to even more tribalism and drama. What's more, this game is going to be different enough to where, depending on—
I agree. When Arknights Infield drops, once again, if this game ends up being better than Wuwa or Genshin, it's definitely going to make tribalism a lot worse. For sure. But I think that's fine. And the reason why I think that's fine is because, hey, a good game is a good game. I don't give a fuck if the community is dog shit. If the community is dog shit, farm the community. It's that simple. Just farm them. If you are a content creator and the community is terrible, farm the community. Make a fuck ton of videos off of them. Get your bread, bro. Like, I have nothing against that, bro. Get your bread. Get your bread. If the game is good, then the game is good. That's all that matters. If the game is dog shit, it's a whole different story. And I feel like if Arknights Infield, if this game ends up being a bad game, like a dog shit game, it's not going to feel tribalism at all. It's just not. Because people are not going to take Arknights Infield as an example whenever they're trying to criticize Wuko and Genshin. They're not going to take a game that's terrible and say, oh, this is what you guys should do. Look at Arknights Infield. They're not going to do that. Instead, if Arknights Infield ends up being a good game, they're going to be like, yo, look at what Arknights Infield did. You guys should do that instead. And then they're going to be like, oh, you're a... What do they call Arknights, like Arknight Glazers? What do they call them again? Hyper Glazers. I think that's what they call them. Hyper Glazers, yes. They're going to call you a Hyper Glazer whenever you criticize Wu or Genshin. They're going to say, oh, you're a Hyper Glazer. So it is definitely true that if Arknights Endfield ends up being a good game, Tribalism is going to be 10 times worse. But hey, I'm cool with that, bro. A good game is a good game, bro. That's all I want.
On how successful it is, companies will look into copying it instead of Genshin. These companies are also very aware of the criticisms that are thrown towards games like Genshin. For example, a Theory Restart released with no 50-50 for characters. If that doesn't tell you they know players are starting to get fed up with it, I don't know what will. If they see praise and glaze getting thrown at Endfield, then they will copy this game instead. For better or for worse, depending on its success, this game is going to probably set a new standard. I want to take a moment and ask you why you think HSR, ZZZ, and Wuthering Waves,
Bro, why is this gameplay so laggy, bro?
despite being so successful, haven't done that themselves? Well, the answer is quite obvious. While
It's an obvious answer. When it comes to Hoyoverse, listen, Hoyoverse, they have the privilege to pretty much do whatever the fuck they want because they have a loyal community that will consume whatever they produce. You guys see how HSR power creep is egregious, right? Their monetization egregious. You look at Genshin Impact, monetization egregious. Millie Astro Wonderland egregious, right? Everything about Hoyoverse, their monetization, predatory as fuck. But guess what? People will still spend money on the game regardless. The game still makes millions a month regardless. So that's exactly why Hoyoverse, they don't have to remove 50-50. They don't have to remove Gacha. They don't have to do that because their consumers will consume slop no matter what. That's just how it works.
they are better games than Genshin in so many ways, they also didn't do things differently enough to where outsider companies looking to create new gacha games take notice and develop accordingly. A prospective gacha company CEO isn't going to look at Genshin and Wuwa and say, I need to copy Wuwa more than Genshin, because what they see is that 1. Genshin makes more money, and 2. Wuthering Waves has so far won the same awards. However,
and this is why so many people go after Genshin Impact. This is why a lot of people criticize Genshin Impact on a daily basis, because Genshin Impact is the face of gacha. And when you criticize a game that represents the entire like genre, the entire like category, then it's gonna make a change, right? When these devs realize that a lot of people don't fuck with 50-50, they're gonna be like, okay, maybe we should do something different. But in the back of their head, they're like, dude, people hate 50-50, but they still spending money though. They still spending money on the game, right? So should we really remove 50-50? Look at a Theory Restart. They were like, yeah, fuck 50-50. But I know in the back of their heads, they're like, I still want to get that bread though. You know what I'm saying? I still want to get that money. That's what's going on, man. It's like a
Endfield
tug
does
of
things
war.
differently enough to where games can either follow Genshin standards or Endfield's. But to be honest, while this is another line drawn that will differentiate between games from the last 6 years and games after, it is also pretty damn speculatory, mostly because we don't know how successful Endfield will be, and we don't know how gacha company CEOs actually think. Another point is that Arknights players are also complaining about
We don't know how gacha CEOs think. Wait, did he say gacha CEOs or just CEOs in general?
and we don't know how gacha company CEOs actually think.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Literally all they think about is money, bro. Like, come on. Sure, they think about some other things, but the number one, like the top priority is money. Which is fair, you know what I'm saying, is valid. Like, hey, you gotta make money, you know what I'm saying? If you want the game to stay alive, you gotta make money. But let's not sit here and pretend that these developers, they're genuinely trying to create a good. I'm not talking about Infield, I'm talking about gacha companies. When you take a look at these gacha companies, bro, you take a look at games like Black Beacon. Black Beacon had a lot of potential, but the devs, they just saw like all the devs cared about was money. That's all they cared about. They just wanted to make quick money, and that's it. You look at Tribe 9. All these niggas care about is money. If the game is not generating enough money, if it's not generating millions, they're gonna pull the plug. How it always is, man. Like if it's not a big company that's known by a lot of people, they're gonna pull that plug, bro.
Another point is that Arknights players are also complaining about Endfield. Their biggest issue with this game is the way limited and standard units work. In Arknights, most units come out in their own banner. Then they become standard units. Meanwhile, limited units only come out during events like anniversaries and Chinese New Year. Now, it's an oversimplification, but it's basically how this works. These limited units only rerun during the events they were released with. Arknights players expected Endfield to operate the same. Meanwhile, it's planning on doing the rerun system how Genshin does it. So, while it's doing most business how Arknights does it, it is at least doing this rerun system like the newer age gacha games, meaning there is also divisiveness in and the Arknights community itself about this game, which is of course another line drawn. So concluding the section, Endfield does things differently enough to where if it is successful enough, it is going to influence the production of newer games and will influence its competition through things it does objectively better. And there are a lot of things it does objectively better that I will talk about
What
right
the
now.
fuck?
The biggest and most obvious
Is there a
things
panda in the game?
games is the gear and weapon acquisition systems. Gear is not RNG like other games and is instead infinitely farmable and craftable. All you have to do is set up your AIC, get enough stock bills, and you're good to start crafting gear. Weapon Gacha is also free, and while you currently can't guarantee every 6-star weapon through Gacha only, especially because it seems like limited weapons won't be purchasable, which is super fucking ass, but it's still better and cheaper than every other system. Although, don't get me wrong, the fact that the game soft punishes you for getting lucky by not leaving you with enough arsenal tickets to get your 6-star operator's weapon, on top of signature weapons being pretty damn.
When people say, "Oh, it's better," like whenever they talk about a feature in these gacha games, they're like, it's dog shit, but it's better. Nah, I don't care if it's better than Genshin or Wu. I don't care. If there's something dog shit about it, then there's something dog shit about it, period. And they should fix it. Period in the story. That type of mindset where you always say, this is dog shit. However, it's still better than this and that. What you're doing is you're pretty much telling the devs, hey man, you can implement whatever you want in the game as long as whatever you're implementing in the game is better than Genshin or Wu or whatever other game. It's fine. You guys see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's what this content creator is saying. I'm just talking about in general because I've seen that a lot, especially when it comes to the Wu community. And when it comes to the way these Kurobots think, they're always like, oh, but Genshin is worse. But HSR is worse. That's not gonna make the game any better, bro. When you keep saying that this game is not as bad as this game, you're pretty much giving the devs the green light to just keep, pushing your buttons over and over again. You're giving the devs the green light to keep fucking shit up over and over and over and over and over again. And at some point, you're gonna regret it. You're gonna regret it at some point.
Good is an issue, although it can easily be fixed by 1. Adjusting the weapon gacha to reduce its requirements, 2. Creating modes that reward you with arsenal tickets, or 3. Making limited weapons purchasable, or all 3 at the same time. Now, there is an infinite farm loop you can sink your teeth into if you are addicted to the gear grind, which are the weapon essences. While this is technically an RNG gear system, it has half if not a third of the RNG steps that gear in other games has. You just have to get the 3 attributes of each essence that match the weapon you want to equip, and then you can upgrade them. There is no level up rolling and there are no ranges. It is the perfect RNG gear system that incentivizes daily play without completely sucking the life out of you. There is a set, obvious, and non-arbitrary finish line that you can aim for, unlike other games where you can always get like 2 more speed or 3 more crit damage or whatever. That finish line is simply getting a weapon essence that matches your weapon's attribute and is leveled up to max. Now there's also gear artificing, which basically works the exact same way as weapon essences except for gear. Now honestly, I'm still not the biggest fan of the gear artificing system, only the crafting part, though it is still overall a much better system than most other games and won't lead to that much suffering in the end. Although I used to think I liked the AIC gear crafting more than every other game because it was infinitely farmable and craftable, because of the gear artificing system being heavily RNG, I have gone back to preferring games like Battlecats and Arknights that don't have RNG in the character building.
Yo, you know what I've been playing, guys? I've been playing Brawl Stars. Brawl Stars is where it's at. Brawl Stars is not a gacha game, but Brawl Stars is fucking lit. That game fun as hell.
Aside from these systems, I also absolutely love the rest of the game. The exploration combines with the AIC factory super well, and it by far creates the best exploration experience out of the big open world games for me. The visuals are super beautiful, the details are insane, and the performance is super smooth. Now, the story, while it isn't the most revolutionary, is still definitely a great experience. I do definitely enjoy it more than any of the other 1.0 and 1.1 stories of any other gacha game. But
yo, no cap, bro. I'm at a point where, like, when it comes to gacha game stories, nigga, I'm not playing these games for the story anymore. I don't give a flying fuck about the story because, bro, it's just the same thing over and over. And I might be wrong for Arknights Endfield, but nigga, I don't even care anymore, man. I don't even care. For Genshin Impact, I feel like Genshin Impact, the story for Genshin, it's alright. I like it. It's easy to follow, but at the same time, bro, it's just taking forever. The pacing is fucking dog shit. Wuwa, the story, I don't know, man. I just can't get into Wuwa's story, man. I tried my best, but I just can't. It's just not my cup of tea. So Wuwa, don't care about Wuwa's story anymore. Arknights Endfield, it's like, brother, I'm not gonna do this shit again. At this point, I'm just playing these gacha games simply for like the combat, because I feel like the combat in some of these gacha games is just really addicting and fun, right? Sometimes they're a pain in the ass, but I like the combat and a lot of these gacha games. So that's why I'm really playing these gacha games. Because of the combat, the way these characters look, character design, the open world, exploration. It's pretty much it, bro. Story, I don't give a fuck about it anymore.
Not necessarily because of the story being told, but how it is told. The characters' facial expressions, animations, dialogue interactions, and everything else is absolutely impeccable. And Yvonne's introduction is by far my favorite introduction of any gacha character ever. And finally, the combat is incredibly fun. I've never had this much fun actually playing an open world game like this, and I would even say I enjoy this combat more
Yeah,
than
the combat
Arknights,
looks
and
interesting.
is
That's
saying
why
something
I'm interested in this game, because the combat looks pretty cool. So I want to try it out.
huge. While you might look at the element system and think, oh, it's just like Genshin where you apply elements to interact with each other. That's completely incorrect.
Wait, hold
because
on.
if
Let
you
me
at the
take a
element
look
system
here.
and
Wait, so fire plus fire equals heat burst. Wait, applying arts infliction of the same element triggers an arts burst that deals arts damage of the set element and adds 1 stack of arts infliction. Oh, so if you add the same element, it triggers art burst. Okay. So you have like 4 elements here. Nature, cryo, electric, heat. Oh, okay. I mean, this is cool and all. Of course, a lot of people are going to say, you know, this is similar to Genshin, but honestly, like, if when it comes to the whole elemental shit, Genshin did not create that. All right, let's not sit here and pretend that Genshin created the elemental reaction system. That's been in a lot of games. But Genshin, they just made it more like it's like the elemental reaction system, it's like the core of Genshin Impact, right? That's like the main, like that's the actual core. The game is built around elemental reactions. And it's so like aggressive to the point where if you see an electro infused enemy and you bring an electro character, they deal no fucking damage. They're immune. I think that's outrageous. That's actually insane, especially in a gacha game. So hopefully, you know, Arknights Endfield, they don't do that shit where like you have an infused enemy, like let's say a heat infused enemy, electric infused enemy, crowd infused enemy, or nature infused enemy, and you bring in a character that deals like nature damage or some shit, and you can't deal any sort of damage because that enemy is infused with nature. Like, I think that's fucking stupid, bro. Especially in the gacha game.
think, oh, it's just like
Because
Genshin where you
there's no way you can work around it. All you have to do is pull for another character. Like there's no other way for you to deal with enemies who are immune to that element.
apply elements to interact with each other. That's completely incorrect because that's not how it works. Let me put it this way. Imagine you're playing a turn-based action RPG game. That is the best way to describe this because at all times, you are both strategizing like you would in a turn-based game based on how to use up the skill points you currently have, and dodging around and moving based on what the enemies are doing in real time. Now this game is ready for the January 22nd release, and the only thing that will really mess up the release date is if they pull a Stellar Sora or something, or if they don't have enough events going. While it is ready, it is also not perfect. I've said this before, it is fine for the January 22nd release, although I do believe that it would have been so much better for the game as a whole if that date was instead an actual open beta and not a Chinese game development proverb, with maybe the actual release date closer to the end of February and March. Either way, I couldn't be more excited for this game, and you bet your ass I'm going to glaze it, unless they mess up. In that case, I will be as harsh as I can.
I ain't glazing shit, bro. I'm done glazing these games, bro. Done doing that, bro. If the game is good, then the game is good. If the game is bad, then the game is bad. Simple as that, bro.
Because I don't want this game to end up
If
like
the game is good, then I'm not gonna glaze the game for being good because that's what we want. Like that's what we all want at the end of the day. We want a game to be good. So glazing something that should be normal, nah. But if the game ends up being bad, let's get to work, boys, because I am not gonna give this game any sort of break if it ends up being dog shit. A lot of people are hyping this game up, so it better live up to our expectations.
Okay, Starrel. So that's everything I have for you today. Thank you.
All right, good video. We're gonna go ahead and like that. But yeah, interesting video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think Arknights Endfield will be the most divisive gacha game in the community? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Me personally, I feel like if Arknights Endfield, if this game ends up being a good game, then yes, this is going to be the most divisive gacha game so far. But if the game ends up being buns, nah. Like, if the game ends up being trash, people are just going to ignore it and just move the fuck on. That's it. So, hope you guys have a good one. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Adios.